Good morning, everyone. So I'm in awe of your introduction skills, Anthony. That's an amazing amount of information to cover. I'm Julia Rocky, and I am here today to talk to you about a project we did, a multimedia documentary project called Buffalo Unscripted. My formal title is Finding Your Influencers, a case study from the National Trust. Wah wah, that's boring. This is really what happened. It's how we fell in love with an entire city. We initially wanted to do a documentary capturing Buffalonians telling the story of their city like only they know it, and so in the 6 months leading up to conference. But what started as a marketing piece simply for conference turned out to be a marketing piece for the National Trust, especially as we were reimagining our audience and our branding strategy. So when we headed into this project, the three people on our team, my colleague Jason Clement, Lee Ivey, and myself, none of us were terribly familiar with Buffalo, but we had a lot of ground to cover in 6 months. So what was the fastest way there? Find the key people. So the lessons we learned from that, that's what I'm sharing with you today. So there are five tips that I'm going to run through and show you some examples from the project. Tip number one, find the cool kids and the unofficial mayors. These are your hubs. These are the people you want to connect with. Number two, show up in all senses, literally and figuratively. Connect with people wherever you can. Three, let the influencers work their special brand of magic. They know their audience is best, and they know unique ways to connect with them that you may not have even thought of. You want to give them a voice, and you want to give them a megaphone. You want to include them in the project and then give them a way to amplify your message and the messages that they're building off of as well. And you want to share your hearts out. You want to share what you're doing, you want to share what they're doing, and you want to share of yourself. So let's go into a little more detail on all of these. So the first one, find the cool kids. Like I said before, this is finding the unofficial mayors in the town. So when we started looking into who was appearing in a lot of stories connected to our cause, who was leading groups whose work we were interested in, we did a combination of Facebook and Twitter research. We were scanning blogs. We did phone calls. We started with our conference connections, and we just started good old-fashioned networking, going through all those webs and finding people who could support our documentary project. There was a lot of cross-referencing, there was a lot of trial and error, there was a lot of serendipity that just happened, and we tried to remain open to all of it. So number two, show up in all senses. Over the 6 months, we had 3 distinct phases. We scouted in the spring, we filmed in the summer, we edited in the fall, and premiered it at the conference in October. So I'm going to look at scouting for a minute for this example. Going to Buffalo ahead of filming and meeting people face-to-face that we were asking to work with previously only on Facebook and Twitter made a humongous difference. It invested them in the project, we got to know them personally, and we became friends with them. And once we got back to the office and we were communicating remotely again, we could build on those in-person connections that we made. There we go. Okay, so great. We primed the pump for 2 months before heading into it, and then when we got back for filming in July, it was time to activate. So I'm going to share 3 examples of where that worked out. We had a huge kickoff event at an abandoned train station in Buffalo called Central Terminal. The event was called I Heart Central Terminal, and it was almost entirely volunteer-led and run. We coordinated it from DC, but we had everything from we had photos, we were conducting interviews, we were giving tours of the building, there was a photo series, we had an art in, there was a polka band, there was a flash mob, we had over 200 people showed up, and it was really an amazing event. We could not have done it without the community volunteers who pitched in and got really excited and got all their groups involved as well. Another type of meetup that we had throughout the week to film was the Shutterbug series, and we gave amateur and professional photographers, whoever wanted to come, access to off-limits places in Buffalo, like the Richardson Center or the grain elevators, and they got to go behind the scenes and check out these places. So people were really excited about it. It was a great word-of-mouth venture, especially with the photography community. And as Jason likes to say, photography and our cause are inextricably linked. People love taking photos of historic places, so it was a great mashup. And then the third type of meetup was a neighborhood-centric meetup, where we maybe only, instead of 200 random people showing up, we had a very focused 15 or 20 people come. And this was a case where we had connected with a woman named Stephanie Barber, who lived in the Hamlin Park neighborhood, and she rallied 15 of her neighbors who showed up at that empty coffee cup cafe and sat with us for the entire afternoon. It turned into a social event. Everyone just hung out at the cafe and talked with us all afternoon about their neighborhood. It turned out to be one of our best meetups. So then you give them a voice and a megaphone. And now I'm moving into October when we went back to premiere it. We had a live premiere event at a local movie theater. We had, in the final documentary, it was not a full-length documentary, it was 7 segments on 7 different themes. And we had local preservationists get up and introduce each segment. So not only were the Buffalonians narrating it in the final product, they were narrating it at the live event. They were completely immersed in it. It was community-centric, it was interactive, and it focused on what they had to say. So then 5, share your hearts out. On this slide, I mean it literally. We were on every channel we could possibly manage with a staff of 3. We had buffalounscripted.org, which was our blog, on Tumblr. We did Facebook, Twitter, Flickr, Vimeo. We even had a plywood sign. But I also mean share your hearts out figuratively. Jason, Lee, and I became really personally invested in Buffalo. And this picture, actually, is from this August. This is not from filming last year. This is from this August because we went back for vacation a couple weeks ago. And people are saying, you went to Buffalo for vacation. We were like, yes, and it was awesome. So great, how can you roll with influencers then? So there are a couple other tips beyond the initial 5 that I just talked through. Use your real voice. Not your indoor voice, not your outdoor voice, your real voice. Be authentic, be personable, be accessible. I think that was a huge asset for us, that we were always reachable, and we communicated with people honestly and quickly, and tried to give them, shoot as straight as we could when dealing with them. Also, at your organization, find strong internal ambassadors. Take it online and offline. This gets back to the idea of meeting people in person. Do not dismiss the event. I know, I'm at Social Driver. I should be talking about social media, but there's really something about personal interaction that makes a huge difference and augments the social media connection. So wherever possible, try to foster that. I like number 4. Prepare for unproductive enthusiasm. You will get a lot of people excited in your projects if you're doing it right. That does not mean that everyone is an influencer. We had a lot of people, we got so many groupies as a part of this project. And a lot of people, the majority of them were very helpful, but some of them were just noisy, just very noisy people who were just at everything but providing no support. And finally, the 5th one, lose control. There is a point in the project where your influencers are really going to be adding their own messages, they're going to be adding their own personalities, and you have to be ready and willing to accept that for it to really work. Now, if it's spinning completely out of control, yes, try to wrangle it back in. But be prepared for the project to morph over time and be flexible with how you're presenting it. So really, in the end, what we learned in Buffalo was that influence is like love, and it takes hard work and dedication and commitment, but it's really powerful and rewarding in the end.